Good morning and welcome to Community Roundtable, a free public service brought to you on AM 1590 KDJS. If you're a member of a nonprofit organization and would like to be featured on the program, call the KDJS Newsline at 320-235-2900. That's 320-235-2900.
This is Community Roundtable once again, Sunday morning. Al Sheldon here on AM 1590 and 105.7 FM. Talking Community Roundtable with the Barn Theater once again. And since I've been able to take over this program, I want to have you guys on whenever there's a production, if that's okay. You won't mind that,
You bet, that's great.
Yeah, I know we had some folks on just the last production, as a matter of fact, the musical with the 60s and all the great tunage that was going on. Yeah, fun. Chatting with three different members of the Barn Theater troupe right here for Nana's Naughty Knickers. Now, there's a name that you're going to love. Did I get that right? That's the correct...
That is the title of the show, yep.
Nana's Naughty Knickers, and to make sure we're straight there. Kieth Green is the director. You're in charge of how many people on this production, Keith?
We have about 8 people involved in the show, so a little bit smaller cast than sometimes we have, but it's a wonderful cast. It's just a great group of people on stage and backstage that are working really hard to make this a great show.
In a nutshell, describe the show.
Well, I think pretty obviously with a title like that, it's a comedy. I don't think that'd surprise anybody. It's a pretty raucous comedy. Sylvia lives in New York, and she's running a business out of her rent-controlled apartment, much to the irritation of her landlord. And it's really a comedy about people finding out about what's really going on there. A lot of shenanigans involved. So it's just a really raucous comedy. We're kind of hoping that when people are done leaving, that when they leave the theater, their sides are actually hurting a little bit from some of the things we got going on.
Well, the way things are in this world, this day and age, a little laughter is a good thing to have.
If anybody wants anything serious out of the show, they're going to have to look pretty hard to find it.
A little bit about yourself, Keith, as far as directing. Have you been in Wilmer a long time? Are you a lifelong guy here?
I started directing at the Barn Theater in the fall of '92 when we moved here. I got a job teaching at what was then Wilmer Community College. Mm-hmm. I've done a number of shows down at the Barn Theater and at Ridgewater College, and retired this fall. And so this is my first return to the stage since retirement, and it's just a great experience down there to work with people. And I tell you, there is nothing more fun than getting together a group of really talented people and achieving something that's a lot of fun for an audience.
Do you have a good pool to pick from, or do you recruit the actors? How's that work?
We have to do a little bit of both. We certainly have a great pool of people that want to be involved, and a lot of them come to auditions. The part of it is, too, we get people involved, but then life develops, and if people just wouldn't get married and have kids, it would make our lives so much easier. They get so involved, but so we kind of do a little bit of both. We have an idea of a role that maybe so-and-so we think would fit pretty well, and we don't just flat out offer it to them, but we may invite them to come to auditions to consider it. But yeah, Wilmer is really, in terms of community theater, to have a community theater that can do 6 major productions a year on a regular basis and has been doing so for over 50 years is a powerful testament to the support the community shows. There are communities that would love to be able to have even a fraction of what we've got here.
And speaking of youngsters, you mentioned children. Do you have children in cast roles at times? Or
I've worked with kids on stage. It can be interesting, to say the least. Children can be a little bit unpredictable. This show is all adults, but yeah, I've worked with plenty of kids before, and it certainly has its own challenges.
Wow. I'll bet. What's the youngest person you've ever had to work with?
Well, actually, I think it was probably Cherry's son, Eric, when we did Christmas Carol, and he was about how old at that time?
Around 5, 6 years old.
5 or 6 years old, yeah.
How'd it go?
It went really well. Now, it helped at that time. I cast not only Eric, but also Cherry, his mom, along with three of her other children. And so it was kind of she rode herd on them and made sure that they pretty well did what they were supposed to do.
Cracked the whip, did you?
Yeah, 3 older sisters.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Having some grandkids, most of them boys, but having the oldest grandkid be a daughter, you know how the girl can ride herd on the boys. It just, you see that happen in the family structure thing, and she's like, I'm in 6th grade. I know what's going on. You boys behave right now, and you go do this, and you listen to mom, and you know, it's pretty fun, fun deal. Can we go the opposite side of the coin? The most elder person you've ever worked with?
She may be. She's probably standing right next to me.
We're talking about Jan Buzzeo, who we're going to meet in just a minute. And I can't wait to talk to you. This is great. Now, Cherry, if you could get over to the microphone a little bit closer here. You mentioned, Keith, that you're on stage yourself. You have been. You've got kids, obviously, that have been on stage. How cool is that for a mom? And now this go-around, you've got a little different line of work you're involved in. If you could kiss up to that thing and tell us what you're doing here with the production of Nana's Naughty Knickers, all right?
All right. I'm excited to be working backstage on this show, helping Keith with the set. It's a very interesting set. Kind of complicated, and there's a lot going into a bunch of surprises with the set. Also with props and costumes. And these costumes, a lot of lingerie for the more mature woman. Is that fair? So it's a creative,
I'm trying to get a visual
process.
Here. All right, yeah. When I saw the word costuming, it just made me think: Are you just finding clothes from things you've had donated or purchased in the past? Are you doing any seamstress work?
A variety of costumes coming together. Even local stores, local thrift stores donating items. It's a modern show, so the cast is pretty much dressed present day. But there is a lot of lingerie in this show. So
yeah, it's a good question. That you just kind of hit on a little bit. It's a modern show, so is it set in 2019, so to speak?
Yeah,
or?
Pretty much. Yes, in New York City. So.
In New York City.
Yep.
Wow, the Big Apple. And you mentioned a business being run out of an apartment, Keith. Can we ask what kind of business might be run here? Is that a surprise? What do you want to do?
No, I don't think that'll throw anything off. She's running a lingerie business really aimed at elderly women. But it's classy lingerie, so don't let your mind go to any weird place.
Oh, come on!
Yeah, and so we're trying to keep it certainly respectful and family friendly.
All right, respectful, family friendly. So you can bring the kids to the show then.
Well,
okay. that moment of oh my was from Cherry there.
It reminds me of the old. Here, I'll date myself a bit. The old Bugs Bunny cartoons, that when you watched them as a kid, they were just funny. When you watch them as an adult, you realize all of the implied messages that you missed as a kid. So it's kind of the same thing.
That's Kieth Green. He's the director of the show Nana's Naughty Knickers, going to be at the Barn Theater April 4th through 7th, and also the 11th through 14th. The Sunday shows are at, 2 o'clock, right?
Correct.
Yeah. 2 o'clock and then 7:30 curtain time at night. Is a 3-act, 2-act?
It's a 2-act show, and right now we're think with intermission, it's going to run right about 2 hours. So it should be a nice, quick evening, and I think people will really enjoy it.
For those who have not been to the Barn Theater, explain the setup. Ticket sales, intermission, are there snacks? Do you go next door to the brewery? I mean, what do you do,
Pretty commonly, you can just contact the Barn Theater for ticket reservations. You can go online also at thebarntheater.com. Then you come in about 7:30, a little before 7:30. The house will open. You can come in and take your seat. We'll have the first act. For this show, that first act's going to run about an hour and 15 minutes. We have a 15-minute intermission at which they sell wine, they sell other beverages, snacks, things like that.
Okay.
And then we'll come back for about a half-hour second act.
All right.
And then as far as the brew pub goes, that's up to you. Yeah.
You had mentioned intermission. Want to shout out to the Goodness Coffee House in downtown Wilmer. They're providing cookies for our intermission. They kind of tie into one of the props in the show, so it kind of makes it fun when they help out and we'll be a part. And they're right around the corner there too from the barn.
One of the things that are nice about that specific area with the theater and the neighbors that we all have in downtown Wilmer, that's a cool thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could add too, that's one of the great things about community theater, and Wilmer especially, is that really almost every production we do, there's so many different businesses, organizations, individuals that put in something to it. You know, you've certainly got the cast and the crew and all that, but I mean things like being able to go to a store and they're willing to donate something that, again, it may be a good example. I have to give a shout out to Schwegman's, because we needed some dry cleaning bags. Again, something that the normal everyday person doesn't really have access to.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's so many businesses in Wilmer that are just wonderful about jumping in and doing whatever they can to really help the show be a success.
Does anybody keep track of where the theater goers come from? Wilmer, the county, the outlying counties? Anybody keep a number on that, or?
Good question.
Yeah, I know the Barn Theater does have a database of all that, but I haven't been involved in that end of it for quite a while.
Along with the lingerie, is there any music involved with this show, or is it just pretty much straightforward, spot-on comedy? You know?
Well, I don't want to say too much. It's not a musical, so there's none of that. Well, I got to be real careful here. There's a little bit of music. Let's just say we'll leave that for a surprise.
All right, sounds good. Well, we've been saving this young lady for a little while there. She's standing over here very patiently with her arms crossed, and I'm going to lower that down for you there. This is Nana, Jan Buzzeo, Sylvia, right?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
All right. So you get as you called it in the lobby, an ensemble cast, not necessarily a lead role.
Definitely.
How many years have you been involved with theater, Jan?
Oh, more than I can even remember. Over 40, I believe. Yeah.
Now, Kieth called you probably one of the most elder cast members he's ever worked with, huh?
That's correct. And I'm not shy about it. I'm going to be 67 this year.
You're not old. I'm 63 and a half.
There you go.
I'm more on the other side of the half.
Let's make it clear now. Jan called herself the most elderly member. I'm not going to get in trouble here.
All right. So Jan, let's go back to your beginning days. You have over 4 decades of theater fun for you. Do you remember the first time?
Yes, I do.
What was it?
Actually, it was high school. It was a musical, Carousel. And after I got on stage, I was hooked.
Wow.
I was hooked.
What hooked you?
I think the camaraderie. You just become so close. You work for over 6 weeks at rehearsals. Then there's at least 2 to 3 weeks of production. You become quite the family.
And say it's like a team, no matter if it's sports or whatever it might be. It's a group thing going on there.
This is probably every night for 6 weeks. You're with the same people, so
Wow.
you become quite close.
You know, it was years ago. I don't want to date myself now, but I totally understand where you're at. Because before I moved here, I played in the band, and we were together for quite a while. We traveled the country and Canada, and I still communicate with those guys today. And we haven't played since 1991. You get close.
You do.
You get close, man.
I still keep in contact with some of the people from that first production.
Yeah, I'll bet. So you're in New York City. You got an apartment. You're running a little side business. You're doing lingerie, Jan.
Got to make money somehow.
What can you tell us about that?
Well, Nana, in her previous life, was a sales girl for Maidenform, so it's kind of in her blood. And she decided to stick with what she knew and continue on and just cater to the more mature people.
Mature as in age-wise?
Age-wise, yes. Definitely
mature,
age-wise,
okay.
yes.
So, yeah, I'm just imagining some of the lines that might come out of this. Oh, my. We can't. We're not going to have you spill any beans on some of the comedic things here that are going to happen. But the lingerie, colorful, uniquely styled, shaped. I mean,
yes, very uniquely shaped, some of them.
How are the sales? Does it work?
Oh, the sales are very good. The company has done quite well for itself.
Does the landlord want a cut of the pie, so to
Well,
speak?
the landlord actually does not know about it. And he's looking for every excuse to get Nana out of there because she's in a rent-controlled apartment.
Your job is to keep it undercover.
That's correct, yep.
Collect sales tax? That could be fun, too, get Uncle Sam involved there, you know. So what part of New York are you in? Where's the play take place at?
In the New York City.
It's just New York City, like Manhattan or
Yeah,
Brooklyn or the Bronx?
You want to be real specific? It's right in the area of the New York Public Library on the southeast corner of Central Park.
Oh, very good. I know where that is, yeah, we're all imagine that. Now you mentioned there are, 8 cast members. Can we recognize the other cast members quickly,
Sure,
Keith, if you'd like to help out here?
Of course, that's going to get me stuck now here early in the morning.
That's
Yeah,
right.
names are, I get you.
We got Michelle Graylish, who's playing Vera, Steve Graylish, who's playing Mr. Schmidt, he's the landlord. Steve Rambo is playing Henry and doing a little more for us. Sabrina Batchelor is playing Bridget. Michael Cola is playing Tom. And am I missing anybody?
Brenda?
Oh, and Brenda Santamon is playing Claire. Yep.
All right, so
And I
total of 8.
Yeah, and I should also put out there we've got Ben Watson, who was our stage manager. That's one of those roles that most people don't even know about. It's not an on-stage role. He's kind of like the manager of the show. So he is the guy who makes sure that all the behind-the-scenes things happens, make sure that basically the show functions. And I tell you, without someone like Ben to do that, the show could just simply not be very successful. So I've got a big shout out to Ben.
The right place at the right time guy. Something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. He's just, and he's the guy that keeps track of everything. So if anything goes wrong, well, first of all, he gets it all set up so nothing will go wrong. But then if anything does go wrong, he's the go-to guy. So really, when we get to next week, just as we're getting ready to open, actually my job as a director is all done. And I turn that show over to Ben. And then he's in charge of it for the next 2 weeks.
And you've got a lights and sound guy or two? Or
Should have mentioned Rylan Graylish. Yes, he's doing lights and sound for us. He's done some recording, and he's doing light cues and all that. In fact, he just got started last night integrating those into the show, and he's doing a wonderful job. Again, it's what's really nice, and what tangent off what Jan was saying, each one of these people brings a perspective to the production. So they each have ideas, and we don't necessarily do what everybody suggests. But I tell you, when you have that many ideas coming in, it really gives you this wonderful pool of things you can pull from. Some of them are just they get incorporated in the show, and it makes it just a real dynamic presentation.
who wrote the play? Where's it come from? Big quiz here now. It's not local, is what I'm getting at.
No, it's not local. It's a published production that I
Okay.
believe has been done quite a bit at the community college or
I
community
believe her
theater.
name is Catherine Di Savino.
Yes. Yeah.
Spell that one.
Nice Italian name.
Yeah.
Did we get Brenda in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one of my thoughts here. Are there ever locally written and produced plays that have been done? Or
No, part of it is because to write a show that's going to have the rhythm, the flow, the structure, the dynamics that you need to really make it successful on stage is a very complicated process. It takes a lot of work and effort and talent to be able to do that. And we certainly have a lot of talented people in the area, but no, the shows that we do are all ones that have been published. There's a number of different theater publishers in the country, and those are the ones that we focus on.
very good. Nana, Sylvia, Jan. Well, you have 3 names.
I know.
How does that work? Jan Buzzeo here. She plays Nana, aka Sylvia. Go back. I want to go back to your first high school play when you said you got hooked on that first play, and it was the camaraderie that got you. What about the play itself? Was that scary for you the first time on stage, crowd out there looking at you?
Not really, because when you first start out, you're more or less in an ensemble, in the chorus, so to speak, if
Okay.
it's a musical. So you can kind of hide and meld into the back.
Okay, let's fast forward to your first non-hiding role.
Okay. Oh gosh, I guess it was probably the Cemetery Club in Pennsylvania. I did that.
The Cemetery Club.
Yes.
Interesting club.
Yes.
I'll bet. What did Cemetery Club do?
Oh, it was a bunch of widows who got together once a month and visited the graves of their dead husbands and then went to lunch.
Okay.
It's a comedy.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
It was four women.
I'm just thinking, you're on stage, you got the crowd looking back at you, you've got marks to hit on the stage, so to speak. You had tape marks? Or?
It's they call it blocking or staging, yeah.
Okay.
And that's the job of the director, to tell you where to go and when to go there.
I'm sure some of them are really good at that, aren't they?
Keith is very, very good about letting us experiment ourselves.
Yeah.
And what feels good.
So you mentioned living in New York for a long time. How long is a long time, the New York area?
Since I was born.
What got you here?
Actually, after my husband passed away, my son lived here, and I lived in Florida at that point.
Mm-hmm.
There was nobody really there for me. So.
I bet you wish you lived in Florida this last winter.
Yeah,
right?
really. So I decided to follow where my family was.
Okay.
I came here, and I am sure glad I did.
And you were actually in New York, or was it New Jersey?
I started out in New Jersey, then went to Maryland, then went to Florida, and then here.
So, do you take the accent you still have, and
I don't have an accent.
Yeah, right.
do you make that mushroom a little bit when you're on stage, and even more pronounced accent?
I think a little bit, yeah. I do think a little bit more pronounced.
So, when you're in the Big Apple area, then you go to a lot of shows?
Actually, no. I go to more shows here in Minneapolis than I ever went in New York.
I was just thinking of Broadway,
Yeah, no, I did. I was too young back then. And I was raising a family, started a family. There was no time to go to New York.
I don't know if you could explain this to me or not, but I've always wondered, you've got Broadway, you've got off-Broadway. Okay, Broadway, you're right on downtown Broadway Avenue. Off-Broadway is a little theater off to the side, a block away, the little guy that wants to, or how's that work?
Off-Broadway is sometimes winds up going to Broadway then. Mm-hmm. They start out there. Some of your shows off-Broadway are just as great as on Broadway. They really are.
Interesting people that are kind of like a big music town, whether it's L.A. or Nashville or wherever, whereas everybody on every corner wants to be there.
Yeah.
And they've got the talent. Mm-hmm. They've just got to get found out. Mm-hmm. Get the audition,
In fact, Keith spent several weeks this past year in New York, and I don't know how many shows you wound up going to. I think 20 shows.
Keith was studying up for this one. Keith, get up to the microphone there.
Sure.
Tell us about that trip, all right?
Well, I just retired this fall, and I unfortunately lost my wife about a year ago, and so I was trying to think about a way to kind of ease my way into retirement. And one thing I'd always wanted to do for years, I'd always been able to go to New York for like 3 or 4 days where you try to desperately cram in everything. And I decided my big retirement gift to myself was going to be a 3-week trip to New York, because I really wanted a chance to see more than just the big shows. I wanted to see the off-Broadway and the off-Broadway. And so not only was I able to see about 20 different productions, I was also able to hit all the big tourist sites and all that, and really be able to feel, maybe get a little tiny taste of being a New Yorker for a while. Needless to say, a very significant difference from the rush of Wilmer. Not exactly the same thing. At one point, I remember being in Times Square, and there were so many people there. I finally took the subway down to the end of Manhattan Island, down to the park down there, just to get away from the crush of people. Yeah. It was so crazy. But when you ask about Broadway, off-Broadway, really it's kind of a matter of the size. They think of Broadway as the old, big theaters where they run the big shows. And really often off-Broadway just means, in a sense, a smaller theater. And so I saw things that we would consider off-Broadway. For example, Christopher Lloyd, many people know him from Back to the Future, yeah. Saw him in a show that would be considered off-Broadway, even though it's a huge name star.
Wow. Yeah, you talk about busy. Manhattan is, 13 miles long, if I remember right, and it's the population is over 1 million people on the island itself. Rush hour, people commuting, it swells to 3 million during the business day. I can't imagine that. Take this county, which is bigger than Manhattan, and try to cram that in.
There are apartment buildings in New York that have more people than the city of Wilmer.
Totally amazing. Totally amazing.
Before
we wrap up here, time is flying, man. Cherry, got to go back to you. A little bit of your acting background, if we could, please. Some of the things you've done, some memories that you have, a good story. What do you got for us?
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I guess I can say I've been in close to 10 productions, but I'm very thankful for this opportunity behind the scenes to see how hard everyone works to give people the opportunity to be on stage. I know Jan and several other people in this cast and crew have had experience with costuming and stage managing and directing, and there's a lot that goes into it. And so I've had the privilege before of being on stage a handful of times, even with Kieth. He directed 3 shows that I was in. One was An Evening of Culture. That was a great comedy. Then there was A Christmas Carol, where he cast myself and 4 of my 6 children. I was Mrs. Cratchit, and I had one of my youngest boys played Tiny Tim, and my 3 daughters were in that as well. And the last show I was in with Kieth was Steel Magnolias, and I got to play the role of Truvy, the one that Dolly Parton is known for playing in the movie. So as far as stories, I don't know. What happens in the theater stays.
Come see it if you want to see what happens in the theater.
Exactly,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
Sure. You've got to be so proud of your kids.
Yes, and I just had 2 of them in the CCS production, The Sound of Music. That just happened at the barn too, and Kieth was very, very flexible with. We actually had to strike our set already, take it off stage, and then set it back up because we gave the CCS school there a week for their production. So it's been a very fluid set in having to take it apart and put it back together again.
Friends with one of the gentlemen who was with the CCS production, and he's a very busy week.
They had to throw it together. Yeah,
lots going on for sure.
Yeah, and can I put a shout out to Jan? I believe she's directing a show coming up in September, and I'm crossing my fingers that I can get to auditions for that one. She's going to be directing A Curious Savage in September. So
is that the next production after this, or is there one in between?
Oh, we'll have Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. That's the big spring musical coming up at the barn.
All right, and then bring in Donny Osmond.
And then which one is Tom Orth directing? Fox and the Fairway. That will be our summer show. Okay. And then September, Jan's directing A Curious Savage. So always exciting things.
Going to be a fun year, the way it sounds, for sure.
Yes.
In the last minute here, Kieth, once again, how to get tickets and the show dates and everything coming up here. The dates I've got. The tickets, if you got the phone number memorized or a website, maybe. The shows are April 4th through 7th, April 4, 5, 6, and 7, April 11 through 14. The 7th and 14th are Sundays. They'll be at 2 o'clock. Your evening shows are at 7:30. And to get tickets, box office, website.
You can call the Barn Theater at 235-9500, or you can go to thebarntheater.com and access tickets there. Tickets are $20 a piece, and I really think that it would be a wonderful evening for a group that wants to get together. I think, Jan, I even saw you mention one time that maybe a group of women who want to have an evening out might really enjoy it.
And there's group sales.
Yeah, and there's group tickets as well.
All right.
Yeah, I think people will really have a good time with it.
I think so. It's called Nana's Naughty Knickers, once again, Barn Theater. I've been talking with Kieth Green, the director, Cherry Hanson, costuming, and much more, Jan Buzzeo. Nana. Yes, come see Nana in her underwear. That would be known as her underwear garment business. I just wanted to say that. Okay. It's at the Barn Theater. Again, you can Google Barn Theater, as I've done a few times the last year, and find out all the information you'll ever need. And it'll be great. Thank you all for coming in. A big loud shout. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that is Community Roundtable. Thanks for tuning in.
You've been listening to Community Roundtable, a free public service brought to you on AM 1590 KDJS. If you're a member of a nonprofit organization and would like to be featured on the program, call the KDJS Newsline at 320-235-2900. That's 320-235-2900. 235-2900.